All right, in this lecture, I'm going to walk you through the entire process of drawing a building in perspective. Now, we're going to incorporate everything we've learned about perspective up to this point in this drawing. So you can see here that I did a simple sketch. I did this with an actual pen and paper in real life, and I just took a picture of it with my phone and I just imported it into Photoshop. So nothing fancy or anything like that. And I used the same techniques that I taught you in this last lecture about blocking in and roughing in perspective. So this perspective by no means is perfect. In fact, as we start drawing the actual perspective drawing on top of this, we're going to start to see how off this perspective is. But that's okay. It's mostly just to block out our composition, make sure that everything is the right size and looks the way we want it to, and then we'll go back in and we'll actually make that perspective look correct. So you can download this sketch, and then after we do this lecture, if you want, you can do your own sketch and try doing your own perspective drawing. But for now, just go ahead and download this sketch and import it into Photoshop like I have here. Next, what we're going to want to do is we want to start to figure out where our horizon line is going to be and our vanishing points, stuff like that. So let's do that on a new layer. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. And let's go ahead and let's just start by kind of sketching in where we see some of these lines. And some of these we might actually want to change. So for example, I don't think that this line right here and this line right here, I don't think those are angled enough. So what I'm going to do is I want to angle that even more. So I'm just going to draw a more angled line like that. And then up here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll just draw an angled line, maybe angling back more like that. Maybe even more than that, actually. So maybe something more like this. So I'm still starting at these corner points, but I'm just angling more backwards. Next, let's go ahead and let's figure out what the angles are going to be on this side. So I do want to keep this angle right here. I think the angle of that line looks pretty good. And up here, we kind of have our angles off a little bit because we didn't draw this with perfect perspective. So what we want to do is first we need to find out where our horizon line is. So that way we can figure out where this vanishing point is going to basically connect on our horizon line. So let's figure out where the horizon line is based off of this side. So if we just go ahead and continue these lines on, you can see that they kind of match or meet up a little bit off the page. So what we can do is we can go ahead and just use our crop tool, and we can just go ahead and drag our canvas out a little bit further just so we have more space here. And now we can just go ahead and finish those out. So we'll just go ahead and bring them out to there. So right there where our vanishing points connect, that's basically where our horizon line is going to be. So now what we can do is we can just hold down Shift or whatever you need to do in your software, just draw a complete straight horizontal line like that, just coming all the way across. And there is our horizon line. Now you can see that over here, this line is coming off like that, and it's going to meet way off the page. So we need to actually extend this out in the other direction as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use the crop tool, and I can go ahead and just drag this out as far as I need it. So something like that should be good. We might have to extend it a little bit further, but we'll see. All right, so next let's go ahead and let's find where we want the line above this to be. So let's say that I kind of like that right there. So we can kind of have a line coming off like this and a line like that. And then let's go ahead and extend this horizon line. So I'm just going to start it at this same point right there. All right, perfect. And you can see that right here where they both cross, both these lines, we want our vanishing point out here to be something like that. And so now basically every line going in that direction needs to come off that vanishing point, and every line coming off this needs to be coming off of that vanishing point. All right, perfect. So now that we have that blocked out, let's go ahead, let's create a new layer, and let's actually just draw our horizon line. We don't want to draw anything else out except for the horizon line and the vanishing points. So I'm just going to redraw this straight line coming across here like this. So it might be kind of hard to see just because I'm drawing over the same thing. And then I'll go ahead, I'll add my vanishing point on both sides. So if I go ahead and I turn this layer off that we just drew with all of our roughed in guidelines, you can see now we have an actual horizon line and we have some vanishing points that we can base our perspective drawing off of. So in this perspective drawing, we want to make sure that it's perfect perspective on everything. So we're really going to take our time with this, and we're going to really draw every little detail in there in correct perspective. So at this point, we can actually just go ahead and delete this layer. We don't need this anymore. That was just to help us figure out where that horizon line should be and where our vanishing point should be. Next, let's go ahead and let's add a new layer. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and label these. You don't have to, but it might just help you keep everything nice and organized. So we'll call this the horizon line. And then we can call this next layer, we can call it guidelines. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start drawing in some of our guidelines. So we don't want to get too crazy with this because it might get kind of confusing, but we want to draw some guidelines in just to help us when we're drawing our actual drawing. So let's go ahead and let's just draw some straight lines. So we want to keep this corner of the house right there. So we can go ahead and draw from that corner back like this. Let me switch my brush over to a hard round brush. And that way I won't get that effect where when I draw that straight line, one end is thinner or thicker than the other. It will stay consistent all the way across. So we have that line drawn in, and you can see it's much different than the line that we originally had on our sketch because we've kind of changed the perspective a little bit, and that's okay. So we have that line drawn now. Let's go ahead and let's draw a line for the bottom. So I'll draw a line from here to there, like that. And then we can go ahead and we can draw on this corner right there. We can draw on the edge of this house as well. We can go ahead and draw on the roof line. So we'll draw it right up to the corner edge of that roof. And we can connect it across like this. Same with back here. So we don't have to get too detailed at this point, but we do want to block in these basic shapes. Let's go ahead and do this roof line as well. So we'll go from the vanishing point to the top corner of the roof. Draw that line coming back. Same with right here. All right, great. We also have this awning right here on the house. Let's go ahead and redraw that with perspective. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw a line across like this. And then we can just draw a line from here, connecting back to this vanishing point to make up this corner right there. And let's do the top edge of this awning like that. Connect it like that. So we don't have to block every single thing out, but we do want to get a good amount of guidelines in here. That way we can, when we go in and we draw this, we can make sure that we're drawing it at the right angles and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and draw this part in right here, this part of the roof. Same with the other side. Now with these roofs, we could find where the exact center is, but I'm just going to block them in. We don't have to make sure that it's exactly perfect. We'll just cheat a little bit. Then let's go ahead and let's draw this straight edge right here for this awning. So I want to make sure that we're using this vanishing point out here, and we connect it all the way across like that. And same with the top part of that awning. So we'll start right there. We'll come all the way back like that. And then let's go ahead and add in that angle on the awning. We can go ahead and add in a straight line coming down right here. Come all the way down like this. Then let's go ahead and add this part in. This part kind of protrudes out, this door area. And actually, we'll just keep that all one straight line. And then we can go ahead and do some lines here, some guidelines for this fence. And those guidelines can actually extend all the way to underneath that door. Add some straight lines for the door, like that. Add a line for the top of the door coming from that vanishing point. Add another straight line right there. Straight line there. And at this point you can see I can just kind of sketch it in without having to draw a line all the way back to that vanishing point. I can just kind of sketch it in because I can see what the angle should be around in that area. Alright, and then we can use this line right here to draw on this awning. Something like that. And then we'll come straight down from there. Same with over here, come straight down. And this part is kind of protruding off the building a little bit, so we want to make sure that we show that. Then let's add a few guidelines for this fence over here. And we get these fence posts coming across, so we want to make sure we add in a few guidelines for those as well. The bottom of the fence. And this bottom sort of sideways post. We have the top of the fence right there, so we don't have to worry about that. We're mostly looking for lines that are either going off to this vanishing point or this vanishing point, but anything that's going to be vertical or up or down, we don't really have to worry about those. All right, I think we have all the guidelines in that we need. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and actually I'm going to add a guideline just right here on the bottom of this window seal. All right, I think that's good. And maybe we could actually add a guideline right here for the bottom of this window. So there's a window that kind of comes out from underneath this awning. All right, great. So now if we go ahead and we turn off this layer, this background layer, which has our original sketch on it, you can see we have a very blocked out version of our house that we can go ahead and start adding some more detail on. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a layer above all of this. So I have a new layer here, and this is going to be my drawing layer. So I'm going to do my drawing layer, which will be the final drawing. So I'll just label it drawing. And this is where I'm going to do all of my final marks and stuff like that. So I can go ahead and I can turn these layers back on. Well, actually, let's leave our sketch layer off. Let's go ahead and add a new layer, and we'll fill that in with a white, just so we can see it now. We don't need our original sketch anymore. We might turn it back on for a second just to look at what our detail was on that, but let's go ahead and let's start drawing. So first what I'm going to do is using my brush tool, I'm just going to start restating some of these lines that aren't the guidelines. So any of these lines that are going off to our vanishing point, we just want to ignore those. But if there's a line, let's say for example, this line right here, that line right there is going to stay. That's going to be an actual part of our drawing. So we can go ahead and draw it in. Same right here, there should be a straight line going up and down, so we can draw that in. Now it might also help if we go ahead and we come down here to our guidelines layer, and let's go ahead and bring the opacity down. So I'm going to bring that down to, let's say, about 35%. We can do the same thing with our horizon line. And that way it's just easier to differentiate between our actual drawing and our guidelines. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with, let's say we want to start with this fence back here. Let's start with the furthest thing back. So I can go ahead and start by drawing just a straight line like this. And then I can draw a straight line from here to here. Let's go ahead and do the top of this fence like that. So we gotta get a fence back here that goes back to the side of the house, and we get a fence that goes along the front of the house. Let's go ahead and connect from there to there. Then we can go ahead and connect a line coming straight up like that. And then we get this side of the house over here. But we don't want to go over that awning. We want to make sure that we avoid that. All right, and then we can go ahead, let's say that this is some corrugated metal back here. Let's go ahead and let's just add some straight lines coming down. So in a lot of softwares, all you have to do is just hold down Shift to draw these straight lines. But every software should be equipped with a way to draw straight lines. Oops. Just something like that. Then let's go ahead and come over here to this front area. I'm going to draw a line. I want to kind of match this angle up here. So even though I didn't have a line drawn there in the original one, I could kind of match that angle. And actually it's a little bit off, so let me try redrawing that. So I'll just draw a line, something like that. It matches the angle pretty freaking well. Then let's go ahead and we can draw a few straight lines like this. And I'm going to turn these into box holes in this fence. But I'll just start by drawing these nice, simple little straight up and down lines. Now, I'm not even holding down Shift to make these perfect. I'm just kind of sketching them in. They don't have to be perfect. And then I can go ahead and connect them like this. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some more detail here. So I'll just do a straight up and down line there. A straight one right here. Then I can connect from here to there. And connect from here to there. Like that. And then I can connect some pieces in between. So I'll do some paneling like this. Just some straight up and down lines. Just keeping it nice and simple. And then just because of the angle we're looking at it, we're going to get a little bit more of a ledge right here. I think I'm actually going to bring my brush size down as well, just so we can get some thinner lines. Something like that size should do. Go ahead and add a ledge like that. We'll do one coming across here. And what we can do is we can just click all the way across these, and then just using our erase tool, I'll go ahead, bring that size down really small, and we can just go in there and erase out the line that crosses over this wood paneling. Just like that. Then let's go ahead and we can add a ledge to each one of these pieces of paneling just by doing a straight line up like that. And then let's add some pieces that are coming across this fence. So I can go ahead and draw a line across like this and just kind of staying with the same angle that I have here in my guidelines so that the perspective looks correct. And then once again, we need to go in there with our eraser and just erase out the parts that go over these wood paneling pieces. We also probably want to do the same thing to these square holes. Whoops. So switching back to my brush tool, I'll go ahead and I can just kind of rough those in by hand like that. All right, great. We also probably want a top surface to our fence. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of add a line like that. And then I can just add a straight line coming across like this. And then using my eraser, I'll once again just erase out that top surface so that way we don't get those lines from the corrugated metal fence behind it. And it will look more like a solid fence. We got some lines over here that overshot a little bit, so we can go ahead and clean that up real quick too. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and zoom out, see how that looks. All right, great. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on a little bit further onto the house. So let's go ahead and let's draw this door. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect these lines coming up like that. Connect that coming across like that. And let's go ahead and add sort of a framing around this door. So I'll have a straight line coming up like that. And actually, I can just draw a perfectly straight line instead of just clicking and then dragging that line out. And then I'll come across the top like that. Let's add a little bit of a ledge to this like we did on the fence. So if I zoom in here so you can see a little bit better, I'm just going to add a straight up line coming like that, really close to that one. And that just kind of adds that little ledge to the door. Then I'll go ahead and add this little window right here. It's just a straight line there. Whoops. Just do a straight line right there. And do a line coming across like that just kind of follows that same angle of our guidelines. Let's add a little bit of a frame around that. Great. We could even add a little line there in that corner just to kind of make it look like it's beveled inwards. Maybe we could add some lines coming across just to indicate that that's some sort of glass or something. All right, perfect. Then we want to do the bottom of the door like that. Let's do a ledge up here. So we want to kind of follow. If we zoom out, if we do a line for the top surface of that door, we want to make sure that it's kind of following with these angles leading back to this vanishing point out over here. So just kind of looking at these angles, it would probably be coming back something like that. So just add in just a little tiny line, just like that. I'll zoom back in there. Bring a line across right there for the top surface. All right, great. Let's go ahead and let's add this awning right here. So I'm going to add a line from there to there first. And then we can do, and actually what I'm going to do is, since I want this to be corrugated metal, I'll go ahead and real quick draw that line in for that part of the house. But over here, back on this awning, since we want this to look like corrugated metal, from this angle, we're going to see the sort of wiggly profile of that shape. So let's go ahead and let's just draw that in, just like that. Just keeping it nice and simple. And then what we can do is we can just draw some straight lines connecting back like this from one wiggle to the other one on the other side. And that just creates a nice corrugated metal effect. Once we get over here, they're going to start going behind this part of the house, so we can't really see it too well, and that's all right. Something like that. We just want to give that impression. Now, when you're drawing like this, it's good to sometimes turn off your guide layers and just kind of see what your drawing is looking like by itself. So let's go ahead and let's turn off these layers. Let's go ahead and zoom out and see how that looks. That's looking pretty good. All right, so we're on a good track. Let's go ahead and turn those back on. All right, so next, let's go ahead and let's see. Looking at this, I actually think that this roof right here, the corner of it needs to be more like out here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my guidelines layer, and I'm gonna redraw a guideline coming out there. So from here all the way out to here. Maybe I'll bring that up a little bit higher actually. Whoops. Because we want it to still follow that same trajectory. So we want it to follow this trajectory right here of that roof line. We just want it to extend out further. So there we go. Something like that. And I want the point of the roof to be somewhere right there now. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and erase all of this. And switching back to my brush, I can go ahead and draw a line across like that, and draw a line across like that, connecting back to our original point. I think that looks better. That roof looks more centered now. All right, so let's come back to our drawing layer and let's continue drawing. So let's go ahead and let's draw this roof in. So I'm gonna draw a straight line like that. I'll draw a line up to the top like that, and another one back like this. And let's just add some thickness to that by basically redrawing that same arrow shape, but a little bit further down like that. All right, perfect. And then we can kind of add some more depth to our roof by drawing a line that comes out from this vanishing point all the way back out to this point, like that. But we want to make sure that it's straight. So let's go ahead and come back down to our guidelines. Anytime you need to draw another guideline in there, don't be afraid to come back down to your guidelines layer and just go ahead and draw that. And because we dropped the opacity on this entire layer, anything you draw with this black color is going to show up more like a gray. So we can add that in just like that. Get that guideline in there. Come back up to our drawing layer, and then we can just follow those lines we just drew like that. Let's go ahead and add that in right there. All right, perfect. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add this roof line in. So from right there all the way back to there. Awesome. And then I'm gonna go ahead and erase out a little area right here in the front. And I'm gonna make some sort of a diamond shape design, something like that. Perfect. All right. Now on all of this, let's come back to our sketch. Let's see what we have drawn here. So if we turn our sketch back on, turn this white background off, let's actually just turn everything off except for this sketch. Let's have a look at it and look at the detail that I've drawn on here. So we have kind of these paneling pieces that go up like that, and then we have these slats that come across like this. So let's go ahead and let's draw something in like that. So I'm gonna turn all my layers back on, and then on my drawing layer, make sure you're drawing this on your drawing layer because you don't wanna make the mistake of drawing something on the wrong layer. It's really hard to fix. So let's go ahead and let's start drawing in some sort of paneling. So I'll just draw some lines coming straight up like this. Maybe I'll undo that. Let's actually bring that a little bit more into the center of the door. Something like that. We'll do the same thing on this back part of the building, like that. And we already have a line right there that kind of lines up with that, so we don't have to draw that all the way down. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and zoom in there. And let's just add a ledge to these. So just add another line really close to it, like that. We'll do the same thing on this protruding part of the building where the door is. All right, great. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and we can add in some wood slats. So following the same angle right here, I'm just going to draw a line from here to right there. And I'll just follow that line right there. So I want to about evenly space these. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Like that. And we can actually go ahead and just draw these all the way across if we want to. And that angle is kind of off, so I'm going to go ahead and redo these last two. I'll just draw all the way across, so like that. Alright, perfect. And then we can just go back in there and erase those out. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit too, just so we can see a little bit better what's going on there. So I'm just going to erase those out. If we wanted to, we could even get really small and erase out on that edge. It just depends on how detailed you want to get. Alright, perfect. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other parts of the building. So right here, this is actually just a wood paneling piece going all the way up the corner of that part of the building. And so we don't have to add any slats coming across, but between these areas we do. So we'll go ahead and we'll draw those in. So just following the angle of these, just draw it across like that. And let's go ahead and come down to our guideline layer. And let's just draw some more guides in up here because we don't really have any guides up there, so we want to make sure we're drawing these in the right part. So draw a guideline there. And it would actually probably be super useful to just go ahead and draw these about the distance that each wood slat should be, so we can just trace over them. So let's come back down to our drawing layer, or up to our drawing layer. And then using our brush, we'll go ahead and just trace on top of those. And let's just trace them all the way across so we can erase them out. That way we make sure that the line stays straight all the way across. Alright, then we'll go back in there and erase that out. Zoom out, see how that looks. And we can actually make these protrude out a little bit more up here. So if I just go ahead and I draw a line like this, then connecting back like that. And then what we can do is we can erase this roof line out right there. And now it's going to look like it's kind of overhanging over that part of the roof. Zoom out, see how that looks. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and let's turn off all of our guide layers and just see how our drawing is looking so far. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn those back on. Let's continue. Alright, so for this roof, we're basically going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and time-lapse this and just make it go a little bit quicker so you don't have to watch me redo the same exact thing in real time. Alright, great. So we just got that roof line done. Let's go ahead and turn these off, see how it looks. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and continue on. So turn those guidelines back on. Let's go ahead and add this awning. This awning is not going to be corrugated metal. Let's just keep it nice and simple. Just something flat looking. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of a ledge to it. So I'm just going to bring a line straight down like that. Same with on this side. And then I can just go ahead and connect those like that. I'll do the same thing coming up to here. Just keeping it very simple. Let's go ahead and let's get to work on these windows. So I'm going to turn my sketch back on, see what that looks like. Alright, so we got this piece in the middle here and those pieces on the side, piece on the bottom, and then we have these two sort of slats coming across the front of the window. So I'll turn all my layers back on. Let's go ahead and start by drawing this straight edge right here. Then we'll connect it across the front like that. Straight edge right there. Perfect. All right, so we get this slat right here on this bottom part, so I'll just draw a line. Whoops. Draw a line coming across. Just adding that to my drawing. We'll do the same thing for this one. And actually, that shouldn't be there. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So we have this one down here. Then let's go ahead and let's add one right here on this side. And we'll add one over here on this other side. And then we want to add one about in the middle. So just because of perspective, the window on the left is going to be a little bit less wide than the window on the right. So this distance right there is going to be wider than that distance right there. Because the further away things get, the smaller they become. The closer towards that vanishing point they are, the smaller they become. All right, so we have those in place. Then let's go ahead, let's add in sort of a corner. So we want to kind of match this angle right here, something close to that. So we want a little corner going out in that angle, same with there. And now we can add just a little ledge to those windows so they don't look so flat. Come all the way across here like that. We can go ahead and erase that out in a second. So go back in there with an eraser and just erase that out. Perfect. Let's go ahead and zoom out, see how that looks. It's looking pretty good. All right, I'm gonna look at my sketch one more time. Alrighty. So let's add some pieces coming across the front. So I'll add one coming across right here. So I'm gonna add a line like that first, and then just have it come across like that. I'm gonna add a line right there as well, and just make the top surface of that part of the window, and then do this front surface coming across like that. And actually want that to come all the way across. And we'll move up and do one up here. So let's put this one, let's start it right about here. I'm just eyeballing about where we want these to be. There's no perfect measurement here or anything like that. All right, great. Then we'll go ahead and just use our eraser, and let's just erase that out where we don't want it. And then we're probably gonna have to bring our brush size down a little bit smaller to get into some of these details in here. I'll zoom in real quick. So we want to erase out that right there. Want to erase out right there. We also want to erase out this line. We missed it on this one, so we'll come back up and erase that. We'll do the same thing over here. Then we can go back in and touch that back up. We also need to add a line coming across right there. All right, perfect. It's looking pretty good. So now we have that window drawn in. Let's go ahead, we can add a few lines coming across, kind of like we did on the other window. It just kind of gives like an anime or like comic book type effect for like just signifying to the viewer that that's glass of some sort, and it's also a flat surface. Perfect. If we wanted to, we could even add some more detail in there. We could do something like adding in some curtains or something like that behind the glass. Something like that. All right, let's see. So coming back to our sketch, see what we got down here. All right, so we basically got the same slats coming down like we have up here, so we'll go ahead and add those in. So I'm just gonna follow the same paneling we have on our window, so I'll just continue those downwards like this. I'm also gonna do one across the bottom like that. I can go ahead and go in there and erase those out. Like this. Go ahead and zoom in there so you can see what's going on a little bit better. All right, now let's go ahead and add a little ledge to these, so just kind of angling out like that. And on this side, we'll do a line coming straight up, same with over here. We'll just draw a line coming across like this, and we can just go back in there and erase out where we don't want those lines. Bring down our size, get into that little tiny, minute detail. Let's go ahead and zoom out, see how that looks. All right, great. So now we just need to add some paneling going across there. So let's go ahead and come back to our guidelines layer. And what we want to do is we want to add some more guidelines in there. So coming off from this vanishing point out here, we're going to do some lines coming across like this. So we can use those for a guide for our paneling. Great. Let's come back to our drawing layer and let's draw those in now. Come across there, come across there. Now try to avoid coming, like, for example, right here to right there. That's unnecessary because then we have to go in there and we have to erase out these parts over here. So it's not worth going all the way across those. Try to only add the lines where you need to add them. It'll save you time. All right, now let's go ahead and erase out where we don't want that. So right up on here, for example, we don't want it on that piece of paneling. Then using a smaller eraser, we'll go ahead and erase out right here on this edge. Let's go ahead and zoom out. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn off our horizon line and all that. See how this looks all by itself. And it's looking pretty good. I think that current we drew in there looked kind of weird just because I couldn't really see what I was doing. There's too many lines going on, but we'll just leave it in there anyways. But you can see we've really drawn a building in really nice and correct perspective. So we started off with a super simple sketch like this that wasn't in very good perspective. And by the end, well, we're not completely done yet, but at this point we have something that is looking correct. It's looking like it actually exists in perspective and in space. So what I'm going to do now is from this point on, everything's going to be basically the same concept, all the same things. And so you can watch me. I'm going to speed this up so it's in time lapse, so you don't have to sit and watch me do this in real time. But if you want to learn more, just go ahead and stick around and watch me finish this drawing. Alright, so there we go. Our drawing is now complete. If we wanted to spend more time on this, we could really polish it up and stuff and make sure our line quality is perfect, because we started out with a little bit thicker lines over here. So we probably should have stayed to the same line quality the whole time, but that's alright. The perspective is correct in this, and that's what's most important. Another thing we could have done is, if we wanted to, we really could have taken our time and make sure that we found the center of these roofs. And the way we would have done that is by drawing an X from one corner to the other and then just coming straight up from there. And that would have centered those a little bit better rather than just eyeballing them, but they look good enough. Now you can see that I added some detail in here, such as these trees, some of these cables coming off the house, some sort of electrical wires or something like that, just to add a little bit more detail in there. And those don't really require perspective. You can just kind of sketch those in yourself. Now, a drawing like this could be finished, or you could add color to it, or this can be your base for doing an actual digital painting. So rather than just adding color to it, you would actually go in there and paint on top of this and start adding in a realistic sort of detail and color. Now, what I invite you to do is I want you to do your own sketch. Look at some reference of buildings or environments or whatever, something that uses some simple perspective that makes sort of flat planes like cubes and stuff like that. And I want you to do a simple sketch of an idea you have, and then I want you to try to draw that with correct perspective. So do what we did here, take a picture of your sketch, put it into Photoshop, and then draw on top of it. Figure out where your horizon line is, figure out where your vanishing points are, and once you figure that out, then you can just go ahead and redraw it, but make sure that you have all of that perspective in there. One last little note is that once you have drawn your drawing, you don't need all this extra space out here, so all you have to do is just go ahead and crop it. So we'll just bring this crop in back to where we originally had it. So somewhere right about there. I can have it right there. Bring this up like that. Bring that down. Maybe we'll pull this out a little bit more, like that. Go ahead and hit enter. All right, perfect. So now you can see that we have our drawing and it's been cropped and everything. So this looks a little bit more natural because our vanishing points are off the page. You can't actually see where they are. And this looks more like something you would see in a movie or photography or a background for an animated film. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture.